All right, what is up, everybody? Shadow Scout 0013 here, reporting in for a unit breakdown again. This time following Maul. So, we're going to take a look at Maul over here in the Shadow Collective, specifically, not CIS. Obviously, the CIS Maul is a little different. Doesn't have Allies of Convenience and doesn't have Wound 1, but basically has all the other stuff that you would see, and the other Maul doesn't have a weapon or command upgrade. He only has the 2 force and 2 training. So this one's a little bit different, but I absolutely like this one way more because he's more of a leader in this one than he is an operative. Although he starts out as an operative, and we'll kind of talk about that and just a few different things about him, a few different lists that you can choose from, 2 lists that I thoroughly enjoy using him with, and then a few other things that look like a lot of fun. But yeah, so first off, what we're going to do is talk about the housekeeping, and then, yeah, we'll go over it. So first, if you haven't joined the Discord, go ahead and join the Discord. It's free. You can submit any kind of questions. We will eventually, again, do the live Q&A. Well, not quite so live, but mostly Q&A, where I'll ask everyone, hey, if you have a question, feel free to ask away, and we'll try to answer it when we have a Shadow Command, video again, just to kind of get you guys some answers to your questions. And, you can also go ahead and come to the different lists or the different channels here with, Shadow Collective, GAR, CIS, Rebel, Empire, the stuff that you're working on in general. There's a lot of people who always post these work in progress and finished projects. And man, this is awesome to see, like the incredible terrain that you guys come up with, the stuff you're working on, the jokes, obviously, the things that you're doing, finished projects. It's really, really cool to see how awesome you guys paint. Like, you guys are awesome. So feel free to show off. Do all the photos that you have, post them on here. And then we also have a Shatterpoint MCP channel, so if you got list building help, even, there was another time when the Peter Pan was saying that they're going to be doing I guess, a tournament that, it's 500 points per person, but it's 2v2. And he was asking questions about, how would CIS and Rebels be able to benefit each other. And yeah, there's a lot that, you can do. So it's a lot of fun. So if you've got those questions or you have stuff that you are wondering about, or, you just need another point of view, ask away. We love helping. Secondly, if you haven't already, go ahead and head to the Patreon. Become a patron, and you'll get videos early, so you'll get them every Sunday or Monday, or at least before the Thursday happens, to be able to watch the video, get an idea, submit any kind of comment that you want. We're going to be doing a Patreon giveaway at some point soon, just for all the patrons who have donated so much. I want to be able to give back and say thank you, and so we're going to do a giveaway there, and it's probably going to be either a Veers or a gift card. It kind of depends on the Patreon members. And lastly, if you haven't already, go ahead and head to theburnacademy.com, where you could subscribe for $15 a month. There, you're going to find 3, 4, 5, and 6-day-week workout programs, corrective exercise programs in case you've ever injured yourself. And it's not physical therapy, but it's just trying to get you back into the swing of things and make sure that if there was an injury, that you're trying to treat it to get it stronger. 30-minute torture program in case, you are short on time. There's at-home workouts in case you don't have a gym. There's abs and core program for at home or at the gym. There's so much stuff to make you look like a pro and to make sure you're doing things right so you don't injure yourself and so that you can keep working out. And if you go to tournaments, you need the energy. You need to be able to walk around for hours and stand for hours. And so this is going to help you out, benefit you. And if you ever have questions, feel free to ask away. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about Maul, his upgrades, and command cards, and different ways to use him. So if we just take a look at him right now, so he's got 6 health, starts out technically at 5, but if you were to heal him with a bus or his Witch Magic card, he could go back up to 6. It just kind of depends. But the first time that you enter play, you're going to wind up starting with a wound, so he technically will have 5 wounds that he is going to be trying to save from. He does have jump 1, so he's a little bit mobile, or a little bit more mobile than Vader, who doesn't have jump at all. He's got allies of convenience. So this is really nice. So if you have Maul as a commander, he can give out orders to anybody. If Maul dies, and maybe you have a field commander like the bus, well, the bus has, as far as I know, I think the bus actually does. So this is technically really kind of a bad example. Yeah, so the allies of convenience raiding party leader, say you have him, he can give out orders to anybody. But if you just had the Pike Capo or the Black Sun Vigo, they don't have allies of convenience. So if Maul were to die, and you had to have, your Black Sun Vigo as the army leader, he cannot give orders to any other affiliation like the Pikes or the Mandos or the AA5 because they don't have the allies of convenience. So that's what makes Maul really nice. Is he's got the allies of convenience. He's also got deflect, so whenever you spend a dodge for a ranged attack, you gain surge to defense, and any surges that you roll, you deflect a wound back. Now, the thing is, with that, you can use deflect, you can spend a dodge to make deflect happen, even if you don't cancel anything, as far as I understand. So if there were a few crits that were coming at him and he didn't have situational awareness, then he could still spend a dodge to surge the defense, but he wouldn't cancel any of the incoming hits. So yeah, when defending, if you spend a dodge token, any defense surge results are converted to blocks. Even if it's a ranged attack, the attacker suffers 1 wound for each defense surge rolled. So now it's basically you cannot spend in melee a dodge to gain surge to defense. They changed that up completely. Block still does that, and Juyo Mastery and Gemso, well, whichever, Obi-Wan, Anakin, I think, Yoda already surges to defense, but those guys, and Grievous, who have block, they can spend dodge tokens to gain that surge defense, even in melee, but most Force users that have deflect don't. So that's why you need to really have Into the Fray as the training slot to gain those extra surge tokens whenever you are surrounded by a bunch of units. So yeah, with deflect, you got to be careful. You can spend a dodge to cancel a hit, and then go from there, not gaining surge defense. Or if you're in a ranged attack, you can spend that dodge, even if you don't cancel anything, to at least gain that surge to defense. And then they'll suffer wound for each of those surge blocks. So you are immune to pierce, melee, and ranged, which is obviously really good. He's got Juyo Mastery, which means that whenever you have a wound, you gain a third action, which is why you also kind of start out with a wound. So yeah, while you are wounded, you can perform 1 additional action during your activation, but you can only still move twice. So there is that. Now, if you have a standby at the end, I'm sure that it's a free attack or move action, but if you've already attacked, you can't necessarily spend that surge to attack again. If you had a standby to begin with and attacked from the standby, then on your turn, then yes, you can attack again. But that wouldn't happen necessarily in the Shadow Collective because there's no way of giving Maul a standby for free before he even activates. So, yeah. But yeah, he starts out with a wound so that the Juyo Mastery already kicks in, and you get 3 actions, which is very, very helpful for recover the supplies, for sabotage the moisture evaporators, for a lot of things, because he can move, recover the supplies, and then move, or he can move, tap, and move, or move, tap, or move, attack. It can kind of be like Relentless or Steady if you were to toss, the saber throw on him. The 3 actions is the fact that you can determine what to do on those 3 actions yourself is really nice. I like it a little bit more than Relentless because you could still move, and then make an attack, but you can also play the objective with that 3rd action, which I really, really like. Because if you have to move out in the open, you don't want to move and then recover and lose the Relentless. And if you moved and you still weren't in range of anything, you couldn't get off Relentless. So that's why I like it. You could move, get into base contact with something, claim, or sabotage, and then move again, or take a dodge, or do whatever you needed to do. So that's why Juyo Mastery I thoroughly enjoy, especially as him as a commander. Now let's take a look at the upgrades. So Anger, definitely a waste. Let me go over the ones that will benefit him. Burst of speed, I think, is amazing on Maul, especially if he needs to catch up to anybody. With that move, and force push into you, and then you can melee or standby or whatever you need to do. Burst of speed is amazing to have, especially when you're with Mandos or with a bus or anything. It objectively, burst of speed really, really helps because you can get to the objectives faster, the hostage faster, you can get into enemy lines quicker, and jump into melee faster. So burst of speed, I think, is definitely worth it to have on Maul if you're not going to take force barrier, force choke, or force push. Maybe even saber throw. There could be, an argument for that. But so burst of speed, yes, definitely. Force barrier. I have used force barrier when I've had him with Mandos, specifically because whenever I have Mandos, I don't want them rolling, period. So that's why I give them their shields. I also, whenever I have Rook, I put situational awareness because the retinue, and when Maul has to give out an order, especially with his 2 pips and the see what power we can when he has to give it to somebody else as well. Force barrier is really, really nice because then they get a dodge from defend 1, and then with situational awareness, you can cancel that, and then retinue, maybe you can take a second dodge, and then you also have 2 shields, so there's 4 ways of canceling crits without even having to roll with Rook. It's really, really nice. So force barrier, and with a third action, if you're with Mandos, maybe you just move, and then you recover. And you just have the Mandos doing a bunch of stuff. Or, you play his Phantom Menace where he cannot do any objective stuff or attack, and no one can attack him beyond range 2. You can just be out in the open, it doesn't matter. And then maybe they shoot at your Mandos, and you force barrier, they do some shenanigans with their shields, and then maybe you go with Maul, and you move, maybe you move again, or you take a dodge, and then you recover as a third action to get the force barrier back, so that way when they shoot at the Mandos again, you still have force barrier at least a second time that same round. So force barrier, especially with Mandos, is really, really nice. So let's go to the next one. Force choke is the third one that I would also take. And I'm not giving them in a specific order or anything. I'm just kind of going based on this. Force choke is awesome. Yes, it's 10 points. And yeah, they changed it to where you cannot pick a specific mini anymore. But, he does roll either 4 red, 4 white, or 6 black. And there might be a possibility that you have 1 mini left over from the last unit. Or maybe you were able to take out all but the unit leader that's got the hostage or the box or whatever it is. Well, force choke then really does come in handy. Or if he's in melee, you can force choke someone, then force push them, and then move, and do another attack or whatever you need to do. But force choke has definitely come in handy for me. It's definitely great to use still. It's 10 points though. And with the errata, maybe they can change one or the other. I doubt they will anytime soon. So you're going to be stuck with it, and that's fine. Just, it just makes it to where other things also sound really nice instead of this being a default and force push being a default. It kind of opens it up to, all right, well, since it's not going to be a specific mini, maybe even burst of speed or force barrier could be a little better to have, especially depending on how you plan on using Maul. But in Shadow Collective, I've really been using him as kind of like anywhere between, depending on the list, the leader and staying kind of behind with force barrier, especially with Mandos, or giving him burst of speed and force push and really making him a just go-getter. But force choke is definitely amazing to have. And then obviously force push, that'll be like the first thing that I'll choose. And then if you aren't going to bring his weapon, which there are a very few cases that not bringing the weapon is fine, because, if you plan on running him as a commander, or you're really just bringing a ton of commanders, then yeah, it's good to have. If you're going to be bringing operatives, because, you can also bring Bosk and Cad, maybe you leave it off, and then that gives you 3 operative command tokens, kind of giving you a little bit better order control of, hey, do I want to go with Cad, or do I want to go with Bosk, or do I need to go with Maul, and kind of gives you that option to go with whoever you want. And that would be the reason, and for me, the only reason not to take his weapon, his Darksaber. And if that's also the case, and you maybe don't take the Darksaber, then if you're trying to save points, then I can see why Saber Throw would be good, because then you could be rolling 4 red. You don't surge, sadly, but at least he'd have a ranged attack of 4 red at range 1 to 2. He doesn't have sharpshooter or anything, so hopefully you're trying to get stuff past cover. Hopefully you don't roll surges, but red dice obviously have a really good hit rate, so if you're not going to bring the gun, I'd probably bring Saber Throw. So that way you have that 4 red in ranged, and you still have it in melee. But having Cunning with the Dark Saber is obviously really nice. Having that Surge to crit, especially against armor, is really nice, because then you have Impact 2, Pierce 2, you Surge to crit. Really, really nice. And it's come in handy. I mean, black dice do black dice things. It's a 50-50 chance, usually for the most part, of getting that hit or blank, and then having the ability to Surge to crit is nice. I have rolled the last game I played in the league for Friday Night Fights. I rolled 6 black dice and 2 white dice and blanked on every black dice, and then got a hit and maybe I think a hit and a surge on the white dice. Black dice do black dice things, and it's just, yeah. So having that surge to crit is really nice, because then I even rolled a hit and a surge one time out of all the 6, so at least you get 1 through. So yeah, I would take it anytime that you're not going to take any other operatives and you're just taking probably like Pike Capos or the Vigos or whatever. That's when I would also take the Dark Saber for sure. But I like him with the Dark Saber. Now, also, I mean, just in general, maybe I would go with Burst of Speed or Force Choke. I'm just going to put Burst of Speed right now. And then, for the most part, I haven't upgraded any of the commander upgrades on him. Esteemed Leader would be fine to have. Aggressive Tactics, terrible choice, because you're trying not to give out orders, and if so, and you are giving out orders, you're probably giving it to 1, maybe 2 units, unless you play, obviously, Seize What Power We Can. So it kind of makes this 15 points wasted. And you'd really only be giving it to Maul, and with, Into the Fray, it just works out to where you don't need Aggressive Tactics. Commanding Presence, again, you're trying not to give out orders, and if you have Maul and he's really your focal piece, you're not giving out any other orders to anybody else, so that's bleh. Esteemed Leader, yeah, that's fine. I could definitely see a case for that. Improvised Orders, I just almost try to take in every list at this point, because it's so nice to have. It's really nice to have it, and then maybe even if you use it and you wind up getting like 2 core or 2 special forces or whatever, at least it's nice to have in times of when you want to use it. Inspiring Presence is also a really good one. He's Courage 3. The only reason why you would take it is if you have Mandos. Any other time, I wouldn't take it, because his Allies of Convenience is for giving out orders, not for his courage. So, friendly units at range 1 to 4 can use his courage value. Well, only the Mandos can use his courage value, because the Mandos have the same affiliation. They have the Hand of Maul there. So, really, no one else can use his courage value. So, it's really not worth it to take unless, like I said, you're taking all Mandos. Lead by example, well, he's probably going to be by himself, or he's probably going to be doing things on his own, or he's got a command card that basically just allows for them to skip their rally step and never be panicked. They could just, that round, they could recover, get rid of all the suppression, and then move, or recover and shoot, or whatever they needed to do. Recover, take a dodge, get rid of all the suppression tokens that they have for the next round, and by the end of the round, again, they might have like 1, then they'd get rid of it. So lead by example, probably not the best on Maul or needed. Strict Orders, well, again, with Shadow Collective, you're not trying to give out orders, and if you do, you're giving it out to maybe 1, maybe 2 people. So Strict Orders really doesn't come in to play for most of the game. And then you already have Allies of Convenience, so you don't need Underworld Connections. Now, Vigilance, definitely. That's a great one to have on him if you can find the points. Usually there's not enough points, and he's already at 200 without Into the Fray. So, I mean, having this on Mauls, you got to make a really good list for it. So for the most part, I don't take it, but it's a Force user, and Vigilance is great for Force users. So really, Esteemed Leader, Improvised Orders, and Vigilance are the 3 command upgrades that I would possibly consider for Maul. And for his training, you don't need duck and cover. Endurance could be okay, but you really don't need it necessarily. Hunter, no, not really. Into the Fray, yes, and I would say that's 100% of the time what I'm taking over everything else. because you're trying to get Maul in, like, into melee, and you're trying to get him into your opponent's lines. So he's going to be around a ton of people, and into the fray is obviously super nice to have whenever he's stuck in melee, because you can't spend your dodge to surge to defense in melee. So yeah, that's why you need it. The offensive stance, you're trying not to use it. He does get a free recover with the witch magic, but for the most part, it's wasted. Offensive defensive stance, the times that you really are taking an aim and or dodge is not that often, and it's saying that you cannot spend aim tokens if you have it on defensive stance, or you can't spend dodge tokens if you're in offensive stance. And really, maybe you aim, you dodge, and you melee. Well, you're going to want to use that aim, but then you can't spend dodge tokens later on. So no offensive defensive stance. Overwatch, well, no. Protector, no. He's never using Guardian. Seize the initiative, maybe there's a case for that if you take Maul, Cad, and Bosk, but for the most part, he's got all 6 command slots. You're bringing probably all of his command cards, so you don't necessarily need to have Seize the Initiative. Situational awareness, I mean, sure, but again, maybe you're getting one dodge because you're taking that dodge, action, and then move, or recover, move, dodge. So really, outmaneuver, no, I just tend to leave behind. Now, tenacity. Okay, sure, yeah, tenacity is great, especially, if you're trying to really make sure that his offensive power is really good, maybe taking him with Darksaber, and or, having 5 red and 4 white, maybe you don't even need to worry about the surge to offense because you've got so many attack dice, and maybe you're going to wind up equaling out anyway. So tenacity could be good if you're not bringing the Darksaber. And then up close and personal, unless you're bringing Saber Throw, there'd be no point for it. So maybe you'd bring up close and personal and no Darksaber, and you get that free dodge, and he could be a lot cheaper. So there are ways to make him cheap and to make him not like a commander and not make his defensive power a little bit better. But, up close and personal and Saber Throw could be just a good combo. But again, for the most part, I'm taking Into the Fray, and he usually comes out around 204 for me, because even if you were to have, burst speed is 10 points, so force barrier is 10 points, force choke is 10 points. So he's going to, no matter what you do, it's probably going to be 204 or 199 if you decided to take Saber Throw, no Darksaber. And if you really wanted to make sure that he stayed alive a little bit more, maybe you do Vigilance and bring him down a little. That's not too bad. And then maybe instead of Into the Fray, you could make him, I guess, almost the same. You do Tenacity, and you have 203 instead of 204. Sure, I guess that's one way of really using him, but maybe not to his most efficient form, His final form. Dragon Ball Z. Anybody? Maybe? Yeah. Well. Okay, yeah, I was a Dragon Ball Z fan my entire life, and I still am. So, alright, yeah, let's take a look at his Duel of Fates, his command cards. So, Duel of the Fates, Maul's going to gain a dodge and disengage. So, Vigilance could really come in handy in there, or again, he could still take a dodge action and take another, dodge. I'm just going to put him back to where kind of like we max him out maybe. So let's put, burst of speed, and let's go back into the Darksaber. So 216 per se with Vigilance. But Duel of the Fates is going to give him a dodge. He's going to gain disengage, and while Maul is engaged with enemy unit, that unit cannot spend aim, dodge, standby, or surge tokens. So this is really nice, and this has really come in handy against a ton of units, because they usually try to aim and go after Maul, or, they do, but maybe they take a dodge, and they've got Into the Fray, and they're trying their best to get as many tokens as possible to hold off and stay alive. Well, Maul's going to be like, no, you can't do that. And if he is engaged, you can just speed 2 move out with the disengage. He's already got a dodge, so you can probably move, and attack. Or maybe you just wind up using burst of speed, and maybe you move, and that gets you there. Then you can take an aim, so you have an aim and a dodge, and then you melee. But again, that disengage is really nice if he is stuck in melee, or if he's stuck anywhere, and you needed him to get to the objective, then this is awesome. And that dodge is absolutely nice. Yeah, so you're really trying to use this when you are planning on getting into melee with an important character or objective. Now, Witch Magic. It you're gonna treat it as though if it is a 1 pip, but it's gonna be 3 pips because obviously they want you going first, and if he's having to be recovered and all that stuff, he's not gonna be going first, obviously, because there's some magic going on trying to recover him. Well, so you could remove up to 2 wound tokens. So maybe if you wanted to keep a wound on him still, you could, but you're probably going to use this when he's at like 3 or more wounds to try and take off the 2. And also, you're going to take off any number of poison or immobilized tokens. So if you did use Burst of Speed, you could move at the speed 3, and then melee, and then maybe you took a few because you didn't have a dodge. You play Witch Magic, you get rid of all of those immobilized tokens, you can heal up to 2 wounds, and when you activate, you recover. So all of the suppression and all that stuff, gone. This is just a good reset for Maul. And it's cool. This is super awesome. And yeah, you might be going second, but you recover the 2 wounds at the beginning. It's not when he activates. Only when he activates is when he recovers, but you're taking the 2 wounds off at the beginning of the round. So hopefully making him last a little bit so he can go right after this card. So this is such a good card to have, and I always bring it anyway. The Phantom Menace. So you can do 2 things. You can either divulge this during the deploy units step. So remember that. Unlike me, I'll forget and just be like, well, I'm not going to divulge anyway. But he's going to gain Infiltrate, and so during the first round, he cannot perform objective card actions. He can attack, he can do all that stuff. Then you're going to discard it, and you're probably going to play another card like Standing Orders and still give it to Maul or whatever, because maybe you don't want to, have to give it to that one other trooper, and you infiltrate him to the point where he is out of range of giving out an order, and then you do the Standing Orders, give him that, and it's really nice. That, being able to infiltrate Maul in, and then maybe if you have a bus, you can send the bus his way, protect him, and do whatever the bus needs to do, and then he, there's so many awesome things. Being able to infiltrate Maul and distract your opponent, maybe have them go after him or try to focus on him while the rest of your army does a bunch of stuff and close in, or they're going to try to go after whatever's in your army and ignore him and then allow him to come in. So, yeah, there's really a lot you can do with the infiltrate. But if you decide not to infiltrate and you just play it as a regular card, you can give it to Maul and to Trooper. And this is where I gave it to Maul and Rook, because obviously they gain Defend 1, so having that dodge is really nice. And then Retinue, giving them another dodge, possibly if they're farther away, because no one's going to be shooting at Maul, they're probably going to be shooting another unit. And so being able to give your Mando unit 2 dodges, and then they have 2 shields, that's 4 hits are going to be canceling before they even roll, and that's even before their turn. Maybe during that turn they move and take another dodge, being able to not have to roll at all, basically. So that's really, really nice. And enemy units beyond range 2 of Maul cannot attack him, but he cannot attack as well. So this is where if you were to wind up deploying him out in the open, or if you needed to deploy him to where a point where people can see him and you're playing really close, this is nice to have. Then you can just get him, move him up, no matter when you need to use him. Yeah, it's really nice. Just be careful. Like, you have to give it to a trooper. So if you do have, Capos and Vigos, maybe give it to them instead of the trooper units, because then you don't have to use aid and give yourself suppression. You just give yourself that order, and maybe you just take an aim and a dodge, and boom, you've got your 2 suppression anyway. It doesn't allow you to recover, to get rid of those suppression on the Vigos and stuff, or, like I said, if you've got your Mando units, it's really nice to be able to give a Mando unit, and they still gain a token, unlike a lot of other stuff. So, or you wouldn't be able to give it to a vehicle, obviously, and, you don't there's no independence on the AA5, so it would be really nice to be able to give the AA5 something, but it's a trooper unit, so you just got to be careful, and that's why I think he does really well with Mandos. And so now let's take a look at his other 2-pip, his Eminence. So you're going to nominate Maul and a unit, so this could be a vehicle. So if you wanted to give it to the AA5, then you could, and then you could still trigger independent for everybody else. But you still have to nominate Maul as the person who's giving out orders. So Maul's going to gain a dodge token, which is his second card that allows him to have a dodge for free. So that's really, really nice. Each trooper unit at range 1 of Maul is going to gain a suppression token. So this is a great, suppression bomb for 1 suppression, and it's only at range 1. So unlike Vader's 3 pip that allows 3 suppression for everybody at range 1 2. This could, if he's in the thick of it, and, if he is in base contact or in your opponent's lines, especially against echo-based defenders, and maybe they play hold at any cost, and it gives every emplacement trooper a standby, then what could happen is if you were to go with Maul, so it's not saying that when he activates, it is just saying each trooper unit at range 1 of Maul is going to gain a suppression token. That could remove all of those standbys without him having to do anything. And then, so when another friendly trooper unit at range 1 of Maul activates, it's going to skip its rally step, so you don't have to roll for that suppression that you just gave out. You're going to completely skip it, and you cannot be suppressed or panicked while you're activating. So there was one point in time where I had 9 suppression on one Mando unit. I played this card. They completely skip the rally step, get 2 actions, so you could technically recover and then move, or recover and shoot, since you're probably either going to have independent aim, or you'd have that defend 1 if you had to give it to Rook, and she had the 9 suppression, then you could just recover and then shoot. You don't necessarily have the aim, but you do still have that dodge. Maybe you did up close and personal on the Mando unit, and they can gain a second dodge. This card is just super, super nice. That way, this is really the one card where if you keep Maul around the most important units, they're never going to necessarily panic if you can play this card in time. So that's why I really like it, especially, again, with Mandos, because they're going to be getting shot at quite a lot. They're going to be gaining a ton of suppression. So this is one way to just mitigate that completely. And then at last, so it's technically a 3 pip, but you're going to treat it as though if it's a 1 pip, so he technically still ends with 2 1 pips, 2 2 pips, and 2 3 pips, which is why I really, really like Maul. Shadow Collective Maul, I should say. He's going to gain an aim and Jedi Hunter this round, so if you did not bring the Darksaber and you wanted to bring this one, this is awesome to have, because then he's going to be able to gain that surge to crit if you're going up against any other Jedi or Sith, and that'll be really nice. But it's just for this round, it's not permanent. And when he activates, he can suffer a wound, but you're probably going to ignore that because it says he may suffer a wound, doesn't say he has to suffer a wound. That way, you just got the 3 actions. In CIS, you could move, and then use the Jedi Hunter attack and whatnot. If you bring the Darksaber, the Jedi Hunter doesn't matter. You're really only playing it for cunning. So if you're trying to get that 1 pip and you really want to go first, the 1 pip and cunning, it'll be great. And then he's going to gain an aim. So then you can already have the aim. Then you could probably move, aim, and then attack. So you have your 2 aims that you need. And yeah, so his cards are amazing. And seize what power we can. His other 3 pip. So you have to nominate Maul and 2 units, or you're going to give it to Maul and 2 units, and you have to give it to 2 units that are in range. And you could give it to vehicles if you wanted, or you could just give it to any other trooper unit. It doesn't matter. But you're going to have to nominate him to give out the orders, and then you got to place an aim and 3 surge tokens on this card. So it's just a nice way of being able to gain more tokens this round, even from independent. You're going to start out with independent for the most part on hopefully the units you didn't give an order to. So that's why I'm like, if you bring Mandos again, you can give it to the 2 Mandos. They gain the dodge from defend 1, and then everyone else still gains their independent dodge or aim. And then you're going to place an aim and 3 surge tokens on this card that can be used by anybody. So each time an enemy unit at range 1 of Maul spends an aim, dodge, or surge, you're going to place that token of the same type on this card. And friendly mercenary units can spend tokens on this card as if it was their own. So when you dig in Maul, and it's really, really tough because you're probably going to want to you're probably going to want to wind up using either his Eminence or Duel of the Fates or At Last, really when he's super close and in the fray. You're really almost not going to play this card. Well, there is one way to really make use of this card, because if you have Maul inside of an AA5 and an AA5 is in range 1 of the enemy units, then you're going to be using that. Because it doesn't say in line of sight. It just says at range 1. So again, if he's in the AA5, you're using the AA5's range 1, which is a lot bigger than a trooper unit range 1. So that could help you benefit. So maybe if, he was in the fray and all that stuff and the bus comes by, maybe you move and embark, or you move, embark, and do whatever. And then you play the next round. Well, you're probably at range 1 of a ton of stuff, and you're going to take all of the aims, surges, and dodges that your opponent uses at range 1 of him, put it on the card. Your Black Sun, your pikes, all can use the aim and surges, and or bikes or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's just a friendly unit, mercenary unit. So he's a great commander, really, really good commander. All right, so we can go objectives real fast. The best objectives, breakthrough could be really, really good. Intercept the transmissions, that could be okay, again, because you can move, and then whatever you needed to do for his third action. Key positions is one that I really like to take. Recover the supplies is one that I really like to take. Sabotage the moisture evaporators if you needed to is actually kind of good. Hostage exchange I always take with him. And, you've got payload. Obviously with payload, I'm always torn to take it, but when you need to take it, you're going to need to take it. So it could be something he's really good at. Bombing run, obviously, if you have Mandos or the bikes, they're going to be really good at it. Intercept the transmissions, I'm always weary about it, but it could work, obviously. It just kind of depends. But if you had to pick 4, especially with him, honestly, the 4 that I would choose would be, where'd he go? Sabotage the moisture evaporators, recover the supplies, hostage, and recover. Key positions, recover, hostage, and sabotage are the top 4 that I would pick, just in general. Because with key positions, that force push and being able to kind of manipulate the area with him is really nice to have. Recover the supplies, like I said, you can move, you could claim, and then move, especially if you have hemmed in. If you have hemmed in, you're basically starting out in the middle. So you could burst the speed in if you wanted to, and then claim, and then move. You'd probably pick something else, because you could go with the Phantom Menace, because if you're not divulging it, you can go after the objectives and still not be shot. It's just if you were to divulge it, then you cannot do any objective stuff, because if you infiltrate, you can't land next to the box and then claim, move, claim, move, because you can't start on objectives. So you're better off just not, with hemmed in, not divulging that, just playing it and burst of speeding possibly in, or whatever, claiming, whatnot. Hostage exchange, again, really nice with any kind of force user. And then sabotage the moisture evaporators. Again, he can move, and then break or fix, or move, break, fix, and then move again and get into base contact, so that your opponent can't move to the moisture evaporator. You can move, standby, and so there's lots of different ways that even sabotage could go really well for you. Deployment, obviously, advanced positions could be really, really good. Major offensive could be really good. Hemmed in, I think, is awesome. Danger close, I think, is pretty awesome. And unless you're bringing like the AA5 and the bikes, maybe rollout could be good, but major offensive would also be really nice to have. And limited viz, always, because you want him to be able to get in without getting shot. Rapid reinforcements could be okay. So supply drop and or fortified would be fine. And, I've even used hostile environment and or war weary, because for the most part, you're also going to be bringing a Pike Capo and or a Black Sun Vigo. And they're going to have, you got to have your core requirements, so maybe you have that. And then with Maul, maybe you also were to have maybe some bikes or whatever. They all have their own. These don't have courage. The Black Sun Vigo is going to be around the Black Sun Enforcers. Maul's courage 3, so really having the War Weary or the hostile environment, mostly War Weary, because when checking whether a unit is panicked, the range at which they can use another courage value instead of its own is reduced by 2. And maybe you have the Black Sun Vigo surrounded by the Black Sun Enforcers. Maul, again, has his own courage value. The bikes don't have a courage value. The pikes could, again, do what the Black Sun people are doing. So War Weary is actually also really nice to have, because it's going to force your opponent to make sure they're close, and if you were to just suppress and panic their leader or whatever, that also works. But yeah, War Weary is also really nice to have. So let's take a look at a few different list ideas. One of my absolute favorite ones, the Maul with Mandos. So this is where I was saying, you've got Maul with Force Barrier, Force Push, Into the Fray, and Darksaber. You've got the Mandos with Rook, Situational, the Combat Shields, and the Jetpack Rockets. And then you have two more Super Commandos with the Marksman, the Shields, and the Jetpack Rockets, giving you a 4-point bid. If you don't really care about the 4-point bid, maybe you get rid of the Pike Capo. You increase one of the Pike Syndicate Foot Soldiers, if you do have 4, I should say. That gives you an 8-point bid. You could technically give maybe Maul improvised orders or something, but if you got rid of improvised on the Pike Capo and you didn't really quite care for it, you could give Maul the Vigilance and still have a point bid. And you've decked out Maul, but being able to have that Vigilance and keep the dodge on him is obviously really nice, because the more dodges Maul has, the better. Leaving your Pike Capo just and your Pikes alone, or you could technically give the Pike Capo the Vigilance so that he keeps more dodges on the foot soldiers than Maul needing to have it, because Maul is a little bit more mobile with Jump 1 and moving with the Mandos. They're probably going to be shooting at one or the other, and, with Maul, his 2-pip, the Phantom Menace, where no one can shoot him. Maybe he just moves, and takes that dodge, or moves, and standbys, whatever. Yeah, the Vigilance could be nice, but if maybe the Pike Capo is at range 2 of Maul, Maul could just keep the dodge instead of the Pikes. And then when Maul moves away, and your Pike Capos are doing the objectives, and they need the dodges, then you use Vigilance to keep the dodges on the Pike foot soldiers. So this is a $7.99 list, and you're bringing all of Maul's cards. And yeah, I've used this list a few times, and I love it. Again, I've probably talked about it a few different rounds, or different videos, I should say. But it's one that I have found kind of works, depending on how you play it. Another one with Maul and Black Sun list, along with some vehicles. I went over this with the Impact. You've got 3 Swoop Bikes, you've got an AA5 with Raiding Party Leader, and the Gonk Droid, just to make sure that it tries to deliver its payload of the Black Suns with the Frag Grenade, Vigo, and the Enforcer. You've got Maul with Burst of Speed, Force Push, Into the Fray, and Darksaber, so that he can get in. You possibly have the bikes and the truck distracting from Maul, or you have Maul distracting from the AA5 and or bikes, or whatever it is. You've got enough threats, because the Black Suns are inside that truck, and then you also have 3 Swoop Bikes that can attack possibly 3 times in a round, because with the compulsory move, maybe they displace, they can use the overrun, and then on the second move, if they're in the lines, they could go over another unit and use the overrun, and then they could attack as their second action. And there's no fixed front, so you could technically attack behind you, beside you, whatever you needed to do. And those Swoop Bikes have really done some good work for me. And then you have a Black Sun Vigo with Improvised, and 2 Black Sun Enforcers with the Magda Enforcer and the Black Sun Enforcer, giving you a free cash dodge whenever they need it. And it's a little bit more defensive. Now, technically, you could switch this out for, a Capo and 2 units of the Pikes with the range 4 gun, and just a regular Pike with the cash aim, and giving you a lot longer range of attack. But this one is a little bit more defensive with the red dice saves. And obviously, I have all of Maul's cards again. And Seats with Power we can, 2 units. Yeah, I've been giving it to the AA5 and the Black Sun Vigo, because you obviously have to. But when you have a free aim and surge tokens, it doesn't really matter if you give it to the Black Sun Vigo. Yeah, he can't aid any of the other Black Suns, but you still have a free aim on here. So it's not the end of the world. And it's 9 activations. It's done really well. I love it. And all of the, hostage, recover, key positions of Bombing Run, they're really good at Bombing Run, obviously, because you have some bikes. Now, you have Maul and Bosk. Bosk, kitted out like normal with Hunter and Targeting Scopes coming out to 115. You got Maul, again, with Burst of Speed, Push, Into the Fray, and Darksaber. You got 2 Capos, 1 with Vigilance and 1 with Improvised. You got 4 full Pike foot soldiers with the P13 Disruptor Soldier, so range 4, and the regular Pike foot soldier with that cash aim. And then you have a back end, supporter or, you know, a unit in the very, very back that's a little bit more defensive with the Electro Whip Soldier and the frag grenades, so that at range 1, they're going to be throwing a ton of red dice. So, I mean, you obviously don't have the extra Pike Capo or Pike Foot Soldier in here, so it's not as many, but 6 red dice is not that bad because you're rolling 4 red dice, surge to crit, and then an extra 2 dice with the Electro Whip Soldier, and it's immobilize and suppressive in melee and range 1. But yeah, this is a nice range 1 list. Now, still in melee, you can't use the frag grenades in melee, but you can use the Electro Whip Soldier. So the 2 red, 8 white, so you're still rolling 10 dice. Really good, really nice. They've done some work. I've seen some melee pikes go ham and take out Din. But yeah, this is a 9 activation list. You're definitely keeping a ton of dodges. You've got you've got a lot of packed units, so this is really nice to have. You've got a good range 4 threat. You've got 5 units that have range 4, and a bunch of other units at range 3 and closer, and then Maul. Still 9 activations again, but not bad. I like this list as well. And then last but not least, just going full villain. Let's just use as many of them as we can. And for this one, I did not give him his Darksaber because, you know, there's 3 operatives at this point, and he doesn't have all his command cards. So Cunning, yeah, sure, you're only really going to be playing 3 of his command cards. And, I mean, technically it's a 3, 3, and 2. Although it has to go in the 1 pip slot, it's still a 3. So he's probably not going to be going first anyway, and it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, I've just decided to give him that. Now, you don't necessarily have to have Force Choke with that. Maybe, again, you use Saber Throw, give yourself a little bit more of a bid. And, yeah, that seems pretty fun to me. And then you have Bosk, again, kitted out like normal. You've got Cad Bane with Prepared Supplies, Situational, Up Close and Personal, and Electro Gauntlets. You've got a Pike Capo with Improvised. You've got 3 units with the regular Disruptor Soldier, and then 2 Pikes that don't have anything on it at all. If you did, and with extra points, if you wanted either Impact Grenades or Concussion Grenades for the blast and or Impact, you could, because you could, I mean, technically still have a 1-point bid, so maybe you do Impact Grenades, and then maybe you do Impact Grenades. Still $7.99, 9 activations, but they've been doing well with 8 or 9 activation lists, and this at least just allows you to have as many bounty hunters as possible and Maul. It's just nice to be able to get 3 operatives and still have that commander in there. I don't know. I just thought this would be like a regular fun one to play. If you don't have the 5 Pike Foot Soldiers, then don't use the B13 Disruptor. Maybe put in a Black Sun or 2, or maybe some bikes. Maybe bikes, not pikes. Maybe get rid of the Foot Soldiers here, and you give yourself some bikes. That could be a lot of fun. So, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Maybe you got rid of those. And let's go with some swoops. Ooh. No, 32 points. Well, yeah, you'd have to get rid of the long range there. And, you know, you still have 9 activations. You could technically, well, Maul's got Vigilance, so maybe you swap Improvised Orders and put it on him and give the Vigilance to the Pike Capo so that he can try to keep these little 4 guys alive. Or maybe you just give the frag grenades to each of these little foot soldiers just in case anyone gets close, still giving you a 6-point bid. But the 3 swoop bikes, that mean, who knows what they're going to go after? The 3 swoop bikes or Cad or Bosk or Maul or anything like that? You never know. And then your little pikes in the back and your capo could just do objective stuff. I just figured this would be a little fun list to play. Yeah. But alright guys, that's really it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you haven't again already, head to the Discord. Link is down below. Become a member and just chat away. Give up whatever you'd like. You know, any information, any questions, whatever you want, feel free to post it. And then head over to the Patreon, support the channel, help giveaways. You know, if you're a Patreon member, I'm gonna try again to do a Patreon giveaway soon. There is still a giveaway right now going on. You know, if you leave a comment down below and you are a subscriber, you gain a chance to win a $25 gift card, and that is going to be in September. And then also head over to theburnacademy.com, and there you can sign up for $15 a month, download the app, and you're going to get everything that's listed here, including the 120 different recipes, just in case you ever need ideas for cooking and making sure that you're eating healthy. But all right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I want to give a special shout out to all of the Patreon members. You guys rock. Kitsune, Emperor Atlantis, Daniel Padilla, Tyson, and Anthony Estrada. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for all that you do. And yeah, we'll come out with another video soon. So peace out, guys, and may the force be with you.